Chloe, would you like to present us your peer chain in about 2 minutes time?
Sure. So you just want me to introduce my partner. So I've been meeting with Jane Mowasi, who is from Kenya. She's a senior pricing analyst at the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. So before I was partnered with Jane, I confessed my ignorance. I was not aware of regulators in Africa and the roles that they have, and I was pleased that when we were partnered up and I began speaking to her, that I found someone that was doing a job very similar to the one that I do in Australia. So Jane, she is responsible for electricity tariff setting for energy prices in Africa. My understanding is that her remit is a bit broader than mine. Her agency's remit is broader than the agency that I work for, in that they set both electricity prices as well as petroleum prices. Jane, when we meet up, Jane has a very varied job. She's often visiting with stakeholders. She did tell me that the reason she is unwell is that she has been traveling to some more remote communities that don't yet have electricity in them for the process of setting up microgrids in these areas that don't currently have electricity connections. So developers would want to establish a program of supplying electricity to these regions. And as the regulator, they have a role to go and to communicate with the community that lives there to ensure that they understand what it is that's being proposed for their community, and to ensure that the developments being proposed are appropriate for the community and the people that will live there, and to ensure that the people who live there's sort of needs and concerns are taken into account by the developer. But it is by all means quite tiring work, and yes, unfortunately she has become unwell, and so she's just said that she wasn't able to speak today. So I'm missing her, but I do enjoy that we have regular catch-ups, and that the more you get to know someone, the more you find in common with them.
Sure, exactly. Thank you. So we got a bit of a picture of Jane. So you, Chloe, you come from Australia, right? You are a retail specialist, and recently you became a manager, yeah? So you were drawing on the difference between you and Jane, that you're a new manager and she's assuming director's role since a while already. Your daily routines are electricity reports, setting retail tariffs. Can you tell us more?
So my role at the Australian Energy Regulator is setting electricity tariffs for sort of a reasonable chunk of Australia. So in southeast Queensland, all of New South Wales, which is the most populous state, and in South Australia. So some of the regions where the national regulator, some other regions have state-based regulators that set prices. And my team also has responsibility for monitoring the performance of the retail market in approximately half the states in Australia. So that is monitoring how many retailers there are, customer numbers, what types of contracts customers are on, and then how customers are faring in the energy market. So their levels of debt, how long they've been in debt, whether the retailers are offering them concessions and hardship programs and supporting customers with managing their energy use. So we report quarterly on that. And so we have kind of almost for a consumer two sides of the equation, in that we set the prices and then we try to understand how that affects consumers when retailers do change prices. And I think, like a lot of other regulators around the world, prices are going up at the moment. So it's a time to be, you know, reasonably concerned for consumers, and for consumers that have low incomes or other vulnerabilities that make it hard for them to engage with the retail energy market and to manage their energy use.
Yeah, as you say, a tricky time. Regulators, they need to justify their existence, right? So because they are blamed by everybody currently. So as a new manager, you are leading a team of 5 people, yeah?
I think I just got like my 9th person.
9
I was just
already,
reading
so
an email.
increasing.
Yeah,
Your team is increasing.
it's a big team with a lot of responsibilities, and setting retail prices is it's in the media, all the major newspapers every day. A few months ago, the Prime Minister of Australia was waving a document around in the Australian Parliament, and it's a document that my team writes, setting prices, and so that was a pretty stressful moment. But there's, with our retail market reporting, is also understanding pricing and understanding prices for both electricity and gas prices. So we don't set gas retail prices, aren't a regulated price, but we do monitor those prices. And so sort of every day there's more stories about with the general cost of living that people are experiencing across many facets of their life. So the cost of housing, the cost of food and groceries, the cost of fuel, and those sorts of things. Interest rates are rising as well. Energy pricing is a very sensitive topic. So my team are often fielding requests for analysis and understanding of what is happening to energy prices.
Yeah, a very responsible task. So certainly the situation you are mentioning is a separate topic. So we may think of, you know, talking about the whole situation also, but I think there are plenty of other meetings and possibilities anyhow. So say, was it before you became a manager that you applied for this peer coaching initiative?
So probably about 4 years ago, I applied when the program ran in a slightly different fashion, in that it was a senior mentor, and then I was the more junior person. And then I re-engaged with the program last year, and I was in the process of, I was kind of acting in managerial roles, but hadn't yet secured my permanent role in a team. And so I was, I guess at that so that was like April or May last year. That would have been a time when I was probably feeling quite uncertain about myself, because I hadn't yet secured a permanent role as a manager of the team, of a team. And I ended up being the manager of 5 different teams last year, because they just moved me around from branch to branch as they needed someone, which is that's quite a stressful role. It's very stressful to meet new people, to develop good relationships with them, and then make sure that you deliver a work program that you understand. And I'm sure other people on this call can appreciate that the world of energy regulation, whether you're on the networks, wholesale or retail end of the spectrum, is a pretty complex place.
So it's the dilemma of being responsible and having a lot of capacities and skills, right? To work more and to be demanded and asked and requested to jump from here to there.
And I feel having a rather large team is also quite a big responsibility. There's just lots of people that you need to spend time with, get to know, check in with. It's about being able to develop some sort of personal rapport with each of the people you work with, and that helps you work together to deliver really good outcomes. But it takes time to get to know people and to develop a good relationship with them.
Sure. And your relationship with Jane, so you certainly had different aims when applying for this program. What was your main aim, and what was Jane's aim? And in how far were they similar or were they different?
My aim was to have someone that, as someone that was starting their sort of managerial part of their career, what was to just to have someone to discuss what it was like to, I guess, be responsible for a large program of work and be responsible for all of it, as well as managing a range of people and their different skills and personalities to go with it. I'm not sure this is something I've discussed with Jane a great deal about what her initial motivations were, but when we had a call with each other about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Jane was at a she was outdoors and she was at a sort of workplace retreat, and she said that they were having a conference for managers, but it was for managers that were looking to retire within the next 10 years. And I thought, oh gosh, wouldn't that be nice? But I think I've got about 32 years before I'm allowed to retire in Australia.
Okay.
But Jane's workplace, they were already thinking that if your retirement age is within 10 years, then you needed to be thinking about your exit from the workforce. Sure. And how you would hand over to the next generation of leaders. So that was an interesting point of reflection as well.
That's good. You always have to have an exit strategy, right, in your life.
I wish. Mine's to win the lottery, but
who's not? Okay, so you already mentioned you met very recently. So what's the process about? How can we imagine you are meeting Jane? What's the process? What's the structure? What are the topics?
So Jane and I have a monthly phone call, and it's usually set for the first Wednesday of the month, of the calendar month. I think that sort of appeared just by, that was close to when we got told via email our partner arrangement. So we started off discussing via email, but then we found that using WhatsApp via our phones is a pretty easy way to communicate with each other. So we have a call once a month that goes for about an hour, and it's at 5, our time zones work. So 5 p.m. in Australia is 9 a.m. in Kenya. So it's usually as I get to the end of a work day, I get to, I guess, relax and have a insightful phone call with Jane. And it's usually the start of Jane's work day, where she's usually out and about. She seems to have a much more varied work day in workplaces than I do. But yeah, WhatsApp video calls once a month is how we stay in touch with each other.
Good. Now let's come to the benefits. What have you learned during your relationship? You're getting to know each other, you're exchanging views about work and private life. And what would you like to share today with us?
So my biggest thing that I've learned is that we have real similarities in the work that we do, and that by speaking to each other, I can find someone to touch base when I sort of ask questions about, how do I motivate my team members, or how do I deal with someone who has a personality that I kind of clash a little bit with, and her reflections from being a manager for a bit longer. She's reflected to me. She said when she wants to work with someone, she decides to be we talked about leadership styles. She works with her team. So where I work at the Australian Energy Regulator, we have offices in all different states, and I'm at home at the moment because it's midnight, but I also am at home most of the time. I don't have any staff in the same office as I am, so while I have 9 people, they are in offices around Australia.
Okay.
So it's about a 2-hour flight to Melbourne to see 5 of my staff. It's 2 hours flight to Brisbane to see another 2. Then another staff member is in South Australia, and the new staff member I'm getting is in Sydney, which is only about a 3-hour drive away, or an hour's flight. So I spend my time at home and managing people via my computer and video calls. Jane she said that they don't work from home very much where she is. They did when it was during the sort of height of the pandemic, when people were still locked down. They were sent home, but they are all back working in offices, and she sees her team members and staff members on a regular basis. So we have a different sort of set of styles. She said that she enjoys mentoring and building up young professionals, and she likes to try and strike a balance between being easy but firm where necessary, and that her reflection is that people tend to be self-driven when they have this space to be creative around how they do their work, and that's something that I've learned in my year of becoming a team manager, is sort of how much do you trust people and let people get on with their work, and for them to make their own judgments about what is the right thing to do, or what they need to ask questions, and then when to step in and to say, no, look, I'd like you to bring that to me and I will make the decision. That's something that I learn, and some days I go, oh, I shouldn't have quite let that person go that far today, and then other times you go, why do they always ask me questions all the time? Why can't they think for themselves? And so then I have to go, there's this sort of push and pull as a manager to figure out what your people need from you to be able to deliver their work to a high quality. So yeah, I think that's something I've learned as we go, is just reflecting a bit from sort of how Jane likes to manage her people as well.
That sounds very exciting, challenging, interesting at the same time. It's also good to hear that people work differently, right? That working styles can be different and so successful. What I liked, and I took some notes, is easy but firm. I like this expression from your colleague. And what you are telling us is, or what I get a picture of from what you are telling is, so you're experiencing, you have your experiences from your new team members, from your team, which is growing constantly. And once a month, you can, in wrapping up, in a style of wrap up, you can talk to a peer, right? So for me, it sounds as this is a helpful medium.
Yeah. Something else that we've reflected on is the sort of similarities of the pressures of being a public regulator, the pressures that we feel. Just after we started the mentoring meeting, the Kenya was going through an election, and Australia had just recently had a federal election, and we'd changed governments, and so we were. My work was in a phase of really ramping up, because we had a new government who knew what their policies were going to be. It was a change of government from our more conservative to our more Liberal government, and so it was a quite exciting time to be delivering programs. And then Jane was at the phase where she said, oh, we're just waiting, it's all the electioneering that's happening at the moment, we're still waiting to find out what who the government will be, and what their policies were. So we kind of reflected on the sort of day-to-day business of our and you know how the political environment affects the work that we are what we need to do, and I guess some of the frustrations with, you know, how we are balanced in the middle of being independent regulatory agencies, as well as so trying to meet the needs of both consumers and governments.
Yeah, yeah. Well said, Chloe. You also mentioned the mentoring program, our predecessor program from Una Shortall. So you have been both mentee and mentor to another person. So from this experience and from looking today to the past, back to the past, what was the most important thing? Please give us a very short answer.
Short answers are hard for me. I think maybe having that peer level relationship. I'm not necessarily going to Jane for the answer. I'm going to Jane to reflect, and we have a relationship where not one of us is not expected to be know more or be more senior than the other. We are at a similar type of role, and that we are sort of both reflecting. And yes, she has a bit more experience, so she could give me advice, and I can reflect back to her what I see as well. So yeah, that's what I've enjoyed. The difference between the last program is that I like being a peer, maybe better than I like sort of having a senior mentor.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what does the doggy in the background? What is his role? Do you sometimes talk to him?
Yeah, that's Lolly. Lolly. It's a bit late for her. She's an Australian cattle dog, and yes, this is my spare room, which I guess lots of people have just been working in their spare room for the last 3 years, right? You suddenly turned your house into an office. So the spare room and the spare bed, and she sits behind me most days listening to various discussions about energy markets.
That's good. That's good to have a peer on your spot, right? A person to talk about.
Yes, that's it. She doesn't listen to me though. My people are better.
Good. I thank you so much, Chloe, for your engagement and for your real commitment, yeah, in driving these experiences forward. You are kind of pioneer to report about the experiences of our ICER peer coaching program. And I thank you, and I wish you a good night and have a good sleep. But of course, you can still enjoy the rest of our webinar today and stay with us.